And welcome to Hannity. Now tonight, the loony liberal crybabies, they need to get over themselves and accept the fact that Donald Trump will be our next president. Now, what we're seeing from the alt-radical left, as I call them, is so over the top, it's pretty hard to believe, but it is real and it's beyond ridiculous. Now, here's what's happened. Since last Tuesday night, this was Hillary Clinton's election party, after her poor supporters found out she was about to lose the election. And then, of course, you have Hollywood celebrities literally in tears, freaking out. Watch this.
The message that I want to spread out to other women is exactly what you're saying, is not to give up. Sorry, I can't.
I was really excited yesterday. I was really sad for her. My mom's name happens to be Hillary.
I still think that in her lifetime she deserves to be the first female president. And that's what makes me so sad. But I just wish that she had that opportunity because she's fought for so long.
Get over yourselves. It's gotten even worse. Now, according to the New York Post, these elite private schools in New York, right in New York City, they're helping these coddled, pampered students, quote, deal with the election results. They're bringing in therapy dogs and offering, quote, disaster counseling. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that co-eds at a Ivy League university, Cornell University, are holding cry-ins where the faculty are providing students with tissues and hot cocoa, and that the University of Michigan is handing out coloring books and allowing college kids to play with Play-Doh to help these poor kids from the discomfort of losing an election. Also reports students at campuses all across the country today staging walkouts to protest Donald Trump. On top of that, you got all these left-wing agitators day after day after day taking to the streets to cause disruption and chaos over Donald Trump's victory. Look, let me unpack this for you and get rid of all the clutter for just a minute. Is this really the country we are? Is this where we are at this moment? Because I was not happy with the results in 2008, 2012, and I'm sure some of you watching weren't that happy either. Did you see me throwing a temper tantrum? Was I crying hysterically? Was I carrying on because I didn't get my way or you didn't get your way? Of course not, because that's not how adults act. But apparently this is how the PC culture, where everybody's a winner, everybody gets a participation trophy, and these liberals operate. I mean, really, therapy dogs? We have a national epidemic, about 250,000 soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, real suffering that they're going through. It's called PTSD. They experience real pain, real trauma, real suffering, watching their friends have their legs blown off and die right in their arms. But we're supposed to roll out the red carpet for sore loser liberals because their subpar, crooked, corrupt candidate lost an election? Please, give me a break. I think it's time to grow up. And how about these protesters? Why do they have so much free time on their hands? Do any of these people have jobs? Isn't it time to get out of mommy and daddy's basement, maybe go to work, maybe time to start contributing to society instead of throwing a hissy fit because they didn't get what they wanted? This is way out of control. PC culture. It's part of the reason why you, the American people, I argue, voted for Donald Trump. Because the nonsense that's being carried out from this overly coddled generation, this has got to stop. Everyone doesn't get a trophy. Everyone can't be the winner. And the only person who gets to be president right now is going to be Donald Trump because he won. That's how real life works. And on top of all of that, according to Politico, and you got that guy, billionaire progressive liberals like George Soros. Well, they're now meeting with key congressional Democrats. Why? They want a plan to come up with and spend a lot of money and try and stop the mandate that you gave Donald Trump and, quote, take back power. Now, think about it. If you're my age, would this have been acceptable behavior when you were growing up or when your parents were growing up or your grandparents were growing up? Well, of course not. My grandparents, they came to this country from Ireland. They had 20 bucks in their pocket. They maybe knew one person over here and maybe had a little corner in the basement to sleep in every night. There were no therapy dogs available to them. They had to go to work 16 hours a day, and literally they had to cope with institutional racism. Irish Catholic need not apply at the time. There was no coddling. There was no comforting from my father. He grew up poor in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn. My mother, who grew up in the South Bronx, no coddling for them, no therapy dogs for them. But they did bust their humps to afford a tiny Cape Cod house on a 50 by 100 lot, and they didn't whine. They didn't complain. They worked hard for all that they had. They didn't take vacations. They sacrificed for their kids. I wasn't traumatized because I delivered papers at 8 and I was washing dishes by hand in a restaurant every Friday and Saturday night and Sunday when I was 12, and cooking when I was 13, and bussing tables at 14 and 15, and waiting tables at 16, and tending bar at 17. I love those jobs. I always had money in my pocket. There was no therapy session for me when I was working, no hot cocoa from a teacher, or when I was working construction, carrying lumber for framing or lugging shingles or painting or hanging paper or laying tile. I can't relate to this absurd behavior, and I doubt you can either. This is not what America's all about. This is now collective insanity, and it's really all time for these little pampered, spoiled brats to get over themselves. The election has been won, and Donald Trump will be your next president. Joining us now is President-elect Donald Trump's senior advisor, Kellyanne Conway. We've been friends for over 20 years. Did I ever send you a therapy dog? Did I ever send you hot cocoa? Did I ever give you a crying room because you lost? Did we ever protest together? I don't think so.
Maybe a cigar and a cognac here and there, which is more our style. And certainly not to degrade the office of the presidency or cry crocodile tears into that cognac about who had won the election. I mean, look, I was raised the way you were raised, very humble beginnings, but most importantly, we were always raised to respect the office of the presidency and its current occupant and the flag. And that's it, and all that that represents. And, you know, Sean, when I listen to the protesters, when I listen to the professional politicians whine and cry over Donald Trump's election, I haven't heard anything new. All of their grievances and complaints are so pre-election. We heard all of this. We heard it constantly from the elites. We heard it from the mainstream media. We heard it from many of the paid protesters before the election, and yet it was rejected. Donald Trump got he got 60 million, 65 million votes. He got over 42 million, about 30 million of women voted for him. He got a larger percentage of the African American vote, larger percentage of the Hispanic vote, about the same percentage, slightly higher among unmarried women. I mean, this is a man who was elected fairly and squarely. And by the way, what do these people actually fear? Do they fear that he is going to provide job creation and economic growth for all those folks who are being told by college professors we're going to have safe spaces and we're now going to give college credits if you'll protest the election of Donald Trump? I'll tell you what, 2 weeks ago, what was all the narrative? All the talk on cable TV and elsewhere was what? Will Donald Trump accept the election results? That was a great question to ask about the wrong candidate and the wrong candidate's movements. And it's the people who defied Donald Trump before he was elected who now will not accept the election results. I like the fact that Joe Biden today, the vice president, said that they weren't ready, their government wasn't ready right away, and the Trump-Pence administration can't be formed overnight either. He said he feels, quote, confident in having met with Vice President Pence and his family today. He feels confident that the government is in good hands. So, you know what, folks? You were for Obama and Biden, listen to Obama and Biden. They're trying to give Trump and Pence a chance.
Look, they need it's not easy to build a government, but you see what's happening. Even Alan Dershowitz went to bat for Steve Bannon, and Joel Pollak and Pam Geller, prominent members of the American Jewish community, saying that this is a smear and a slander against Steve Bannon. You see what's written about Rudy Giuliani, obviously an attempt to prevent Donald Trump from picking Rudy Giuliani. And I'm going to argue that whoever he picks is going to come under a lot of scrutiny and fire that Obama's picks never came under. Are you prepared for what the continuation, basically, of a corrupt media that had colluded, and we learned had colluded with the Clinton campaign during the election cycle? Do you expect that it's going to be different for you guys?
Well, we know it's going to be the same it was pre-election. And I would just tell these people, give this president-elect his opportunity to nominate and to appoint his cabinet, his senior team. And the idea that it's presumptively negative against each of them, the idea that the person is guilty until proven innocent as a senior staffer or a member of the cabinet is really unprecedented, Sean. And I will tell you about a meeting I had today with President-elect Trump and Leonard Leo, the head of the Federalist Society. Senator Sessions was there. We talked about the Supreme Court. We talked about President-elect Trump's list of 21 possible nominees to the United States Supreme Court to fill that vacancy due to the untimely death of conservative jurist and constitutional hero Antonin Scalia. And we talked through the list. We talked about all the vacancies in the federal judiciary below the United States Supreme Court, in the circuit courts, and other legal positions. It was a very productive meeting. And I think if people had witnessed that meeting, they would see that this is a very engaged president-elect who's going to make good on his campaign promises and do what's right by the country. But, you know, we're treating these adolescents and these millennials like precious snowflakes. I'm just amazed how many texts and emails I'm receiving as one person of all these professors saying you don't have to take the test, you can get college credit if you protest. What's the worst thing that can happen to these millennials? That Donald Trump will make good on his promise to create 25 million new jobs, that he'll unleash energy investment, that he'll get rid of the Obamacare penalty on day one so that you're not forced to buy government-run health care. I mean, what is the worst thing that can happen to them? That millions of Americans currently in poverty and without health insurance will actually do it? Get it?
Okay. What will Kellyanne's position be in the Trump administration?
Well, President-elect Trump has made very clear that he would like me to continue to serve him the way I have been, in a very unique position for him. And I want to be there for my best and highest use, so that those are conversations that he and I are having. I don't look at myself as a huge priority. I'd rather watch him form his cabinet and think of and take these calls.
I think you're a huge priority. I'd put you right at the top of the list. You were great for Donald Trump.
Well, thank you. I will continue to support him and his presidency, and Vice President Mike Pence, who I've worked with for a dozen years, any way that they feel that I can be most helpful. I
only want one thing from Mr. Trump, and it's not an invitation to a stupid ball. I hate them, or the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I've never gone. You're coming. Huh?
Inauguration Day is my 50th birthday. You have to come.
Okay. I'll try. I've never been to one. I only want one thing. Just keep your promises. Keep your promises, and don't listen to these idiots in Washington. That's my advice.
Sean, he's already doing it. He's already draining the swamp. And I think that's why you get all of these negative, unattributed quotes in the print press these days, and some people on TV who don't know what they're talking about. I think they're scared to death that this guy is really going to shake up the system, that he means what he says when he says we don't need all these consultants, we don't need all these lobbyists, we don't need all these professional class, what I've always called the, quote, staph infection.
All right, good to see you, and I know you will be a huge asset to his team. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And coming up, the mainstream corrupt media going after the Trump transition team and his family. So why didn't they give President Obama the same treatment in 2008? We're going to show you that next. Then we'll get reaction from Kimberly Guilfoyle, Eric Bolling. Also, Judge Jeanine Pirro and Dr. Sebastian Gorka are here to react to Trump's immigration agenda. And Duck Dynasty's Willie Robertson is here in studio, and much more.
I call them the corrupt media. Bad liars, real liars.
Donald Trump does 2 days before the election, slamming the abusively biased mainstream media. Now, that very same media has been predictably negative to President-elect Donald Trump and his family since he won the election. Watch this.
President-elect is in a real Twitter mode once again. This is a reflection again of maybe some type of unrest within the transition, a lack of organization, not really known who is going to be in these main cabinet positions.
The First Amendment's really important, and we need to, while we fight with the Trump people about this, we need to make the public understand we're doing this in the public interest. It's vitally important for the democracy. He should just start playing by the rules.
21 Club is a really expensive New York City restaurant. He said there to someone, and you're assuming that's a place that has, a $30 burger. I'm going to get your taxes down. When people across America hear something like that, it's got to make them scratch their head a little bit.
New scrutiny over this image. Her own company using the new First Family's interview on 60 Minutes to promote her jewelry line, sending this alert to fashion reporters, noting Ivanka was wearing, quote, her favorite bangle from the Metropolis collection on 60 Minutes. The bracelet retails at $10,800.
All right, so the mainstream media press coverage on Donald Trump and his transition team has been overwhelmingly pessimistic. Let's take a look way back to 2008. Let's compare and contrast how President-elect Obama, what treatment he got back in the day.
These kids, these beautiful kids, Sasha, Malia, are going to be the first kids. The first lady is going to be Michelle Obama. It's going to be a spectacularly different environment for every kid who reaches consciousness. And the world will look at us, thank God, with wonder again. My God, how they do it. How do these Americans do it? It's just truly wondrous. Because well, we all saw something in this candidate.
Rahm Emanuel being named chief of staff. Just looking through, obviously I'm reading up on a lot of his background. You know, a guy that's called Rambo because Rombo rather, because he's apparently a real pit bull politician, but also a ballet dancer. How do those all mix? This guy's an interesting character.
He's a very interesting character, and I think he's the absolute right pick.
He handled the substantive questions well. He handled the personal questions very well. He's having a strong transition by almost every measure. He was pretty strong in his press conference, the other big high-profile thing he's done since the election. This, I thought, was even stronger.
Here with reaction are two of the stars from the five, Eric Bolling, KG, Kimberly Guilfoyle. All right, let me just give you an example. So the media trashes Bannon, but Keith Ellison's a guy that is associated with radical groups and praises Louis Farrakhan. Okay, then they're saying Donald Trump has flipped and flopped and flailed. He's not. The New York Times, they're still trashing him. Seriously?
No, it's unbelievable. And Abigail Clem's a friend of mine, and she issues a statement today on behalf of Ivanka and said, listen, obviously we'll tighten some things up. This was just sent out innocently just to say she's wearing this bracelet. But really, that's like earth-shattering world news that they need to focus on.
It's a lot different than, Chris Matthews wetting his pants on national television over
Looked like that. Yeah, it looked like that, didn't it?
Seriously.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Why are you laughing?
It was a tingle up his leg. I think that's what it was.
Well, no, that was
or down his
tingle.
leg.
This was a tingle down his leg.
Yeah.
So
downstream.
Already, the New York Times has said they're going to have to reevaluate how they cover Donald Trump. Washington Post, I believe, apologized yesterday on some of the coverage they had of Trump and his staff. The Huffington Post, remember, they were going to cover Donald Trump in their entertainment section right, because he was never going to be the president. He was never going to be even taken seriously. That's fine. Wonderful. Knock yourself out. But what bothers me is this accusation that the Trump transition team is in disarray, and it's not. They are taking their time.
I know
they've
personally it's not.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. The point is they're taking their time. Reince Priebus is the right guy right there. Kellyanne's been super solid straight through. Bannon's smart. So they don't have their whole cabinet set in 7 or 8 days. They got 70 days.
And neither did Obama. The anointed one, the great Obama. I mean, the double standard is nauseating, but it's always going to be like this, isn't it? This is what Trump now has to face.
Right.
WikiLeaks showed us the media colluded with Hillary Clinton's campaign. They got away with it, although MRC points out 97% of voters knew the media's biased, but they didn't go along with it. They didn't get influenced by it.
No, it's unbelievable. But did you really expect that all of a sudden the New York Times and Washington Post and other these places like HuffPost were going to turn over a new leaf and be papers of, ethics, that they were actually going to try and do a good job of being honest? No, they were going to continue to try to find something to pull apart against President-elect Donald Trump. They try to say things that his transition is disarray. It is not. We talked about this on our show today, and it's just shameful.
When we come back, Judge Jeanine, Pirro, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, they'll weigh in on Trump's immigration plan, plus tonight.
I think that they will probably start with the biggest offices in the very near future, and certainly shortly after Thanksgiving at the latest.
Newt Gingrich earlier today talking about when President-elect Donald Trump will announce the key cabinet positions, Matt and Mercedes Schlapp. They'll join us. All of that, plus Duck Dynasty's Willie Robertson, beard and all. It's getting a little white there. He'll join us coming up straight ahead. Welcome back to Hannity. So, during his interview with 60 Minutes, President-elect Donald Trump promised to deport criminal illegal immigrants right away. Not everyone is happy with Mr. Trump's plan. As the Washington Times reported yesterday, some immigration advocates are calling on President Obama to pardon a large, massive group of illegals. The Times writes, quote, illegal immigrants are preparing to ask the President Obama, to pardon some 750,000, quote, dreamers, saying such a move is their last best hope to stave off what they fear. So is there going to be a wave of deportations once Donald Trump takes office? And now some universities are reportedly, they're facing pressure from students and professors to become illegal immigrant sanctuaries. Joining us now with reaction, the host of Justice, Judge Jeanine Pirro, and the author of Defeating Jihad, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Let's talk legally. Okay, if Rambo Deadfish, if San Francisco, if Comrade de Blasio, all these people defy the law of the United States, and they say, we're not going to listen to the president, we're not going to follow federal law, are they aiding and abetting? Are they themselves committing a crime?
Well, this is the way you would have to look at it. They would be, if the feds or ICE lodge a detainer, then they are harboring a fugitive, and they are aiding and abetting in the harboring of a fugitive. The way to hurt them is to make sure that you take away their money for sanctuary cities, which is what they didn't do last year with the budget. But let me explain one thing.
Okay, all right, so they'll defund that. Trump would do that.
Trump is going to do that, and Trump has to do it.
So here's the next question. Well, what about those people that still harbor them?
The people that still harbor them, what he's talking, the cities?
Is that a crime?
I'm not sure, because the feds cannot force the locals to do their job for them. It's a commandeering clause as interpreted by the courts.
What if they pull somebody over and they know that person's illegal and they let them go?
And the locals let them go?
Yeah. Is that a crime?
But the feds cannot force them to hang on to that guy. The feds can only if they have the information. What the feds are doing now is they are getting rid of the information.
All right. If I encourage somebody to break the law, I say, okay, yeah, just break the law. Don't listen to that law.
But what you have to do, look, this is what Bobby Jindal tried to do when he was running for president. He got a lot of heat for it. You have got to actually be and have an overt act in furtherance of the crime to be part of the conspiracy. Here's the bottom line. This is a fallacy. A chief of police like Beck has an obligation to protect his citizens. A sanctuary city is allowing criminal illegals to run rampant. And his claim that he is protecting them and creating a back and forth with the illegals. No, what he's doing is he's allowing criminals to run rampant and victimizing the illegals. I know, I was a DA. What you're doing is you're allowing the illegal criminals to victimize the illegals who aren't criminals.
All right, let me go to Sebastian Gorka. From the perspective, all right, we understand what criminal aliens can potentially do. That's a no-brainer. Donald Trump said we got to build the wall first. After the wall is built, the country will make decisions. He'll make decisions about those that didn't respect our laws and sovereignty. Isn't the bigger issue about borders, though, the security issue that you're dealing with? In other words, you study ISIS. You know al-Qaeda. You understand radical Islamists. Don't they know that border's open? Don't they know that's an easy entry point for them to get into the country, to commit acts of terror in towns and cities, et cetera?
They don't just know that, Sean. They actually have been exploiting it. We associate Judicial Watch here in D.C. with the amazing work of Tom Fitton and Chris Farrell on Servergate. But Judicial Watch has also been investigating exactly how the southern border, especially a 60-mile patch between Texas and New Mexico, is being exploited by jihadists. There are reports from the local, not the feds, but the local Texas Public Safety Department. There are reports from Mexico that jihadists are using the rat runs. They're using the coyotes to bring people into the United States. There is an individual who reported that the Garland attack, you remember the attack in Garland, Texas, that was connected to jihadists in Mexico and Texas. So Sean, it's not hypothetical, it's already here. And those cities that say they're going to harbor or maintain their sanctuary status, I'd like to remind them of one thing. Donald Trump won this election mostly on a platform of law and order. Clearly, they still don't understand what happened last Tuesday in America.
Yeah.
There's another piece to this. We do not allow the harboring of American criminals. Why are we allowing for the harboring of illegal foreign criminals? And the United States Supreme Court, in response to President Obama's executive action with DAPA, said, no, Mr. President, we are not going to allow you, by affirming the circuit court and and having a split decision. We're not going to allow you to prevent the deportation of 5 million illegals. They have to be deported. So President Obama should get off his high horse at this point and understand that we are a country of laws and stop talking down to President-elect Trump and telling him what to do. We are a country of laws. They have to be followed.
All right, guys, good to see you both. Thank you. And very important questions that will be coming up. This is going to be a big fight. All right, up next tonight on this busy news night on Hannity.
I think that they will probably start with the biggest offices in the very near future, and certainly shortly after Thanksgiving at the latest.
Newt Gingrich speaking earlier today outside the Trump transition office in Washington, D.C. about when we can expect cabinet positions to be announced. Matt and Mercedes Schlapp, they'll join us next with reaction. And later, Duck Dynasty's own Willie Robertson is here to weigh in on the election results. Plus, he's got a brand new book out. That and more tonight on Hannity.
I remember historically very often they announce cabinets in mid-December. Now, given the nature of the hyper-press of the modern era, they may not be able to wait that long, and it all kind of leaks out. But I think that they will probably start with the biggest offices in the very near future, and certainly shortly after Thanksgiving at the latest. The relationship between the president-elect and the vice president-elect is very close. That's why, he was assigned to come down here and be the head of the transition. Nobody should kid themselves. I mean, this will be President Trump's administration. He will make all the major decisions. That's how he's run his empire when in the private sector, and it works for him.
All right, that was Newt Gingrich earlier today outside the Trump transition office in Washington, D.C. Now, they're hard at work trying to fill key cabinet positions at the White House. Now, the media, some lawmakers have been critical of a few of the names being floated for key posts. And as I've been saying now for a couple of nights, President-elect Trump, you've got to ignore these people. They will never support you. They never did support you. And you should not try to appease the media or this Washington establishment. Joining us now, American Conservative Union Chairman Matt Schlapp and Fox News contributor Mercedes Schlapp. Mercedes, I actually heard your name floated as a potential RNC chair, and I wrote Matt and said, tell her no. Don't do it. Don't do it. Look, I would support you if you wanted to do it, but I'm like,
well, thank you,
Matt,
Sean.
tell her no.
Well, let me tell you, Reince Priebus did such a phenomenal job. Those are big shoes to fill, I have to say. So this transition, I think, is moving right along. I think everyone has to take a deep breath. Okay, as we know, when you look back at 2008, President Obama announced his first cabinet secretary pick on November 24th, which was Secretary of Treasurer Geithner. And then, Secretary of State, when that was announced? December 1st, which was Hillary Clinton. So I think this is a moment where the media really loves this narrative, Sean, about the campaign, the transitions in disarray. Remember, they used to think the campaign was in disarray. But Donald Trump, I think, has a very clear understanding and a tight control of the process, along with Vice President-elect Pence. And I do think that they need to take the necessary time to make these incredibly important decisions for his administration.
Yeah. Look, these are important positions. It used to be that presidents get the benefit of the doubt to bring in the team that they think are best able and capable of fulfilling the promises they made to the American people. You see what's happened with Steve Bannon. The liberal media's tried to smear, slander him. It's all been lies, but that's what they do. They're now trying to do the same thing, Matt, to Rudy Giuliani. Is it effective?
Yes, it's effective. And to my friends in the Trump transition, they need to get on top of this with rapid response immediately. What happens in Washington is that there's a corrosive effect when the Democrats put you in their target. And I think for Steve, who's a very close friend of mine, someone I have the highest regard for, who these are lies, this is slander, this is a smear job. But unfortunately, in a democracy, over time it can work. And they've got to be ready to defend these people as they announce them. And it's one of the hard things in a transition. Look, Sean, what Trump has done, what President-elect Trump has done is the right thing. We have a pre-transition for the first time in history, which is really a waste of time and money. After he won this race, he got a hold of his transition. He put the vice president-elect in charge, which was exactly what George W. Bush did with Dick Cheney. No one's going to mess around with Mike Pence. Donald Trump is making these decisions. This transition is totally going in the right direction. He needs to just block out all this chatter, but you've got to defend your people when they get picked, both for the White House staff and these cabinet secretaries.
Yeah, all right. Who would be key people you'd want Trump to look at, Mercedes?
Well, there's so much talent out there, especially amongst his own closest advisors. Obviously, between Rudy Giuliani, Ambassador John Bolton, Jeff Sessions, I mean, he has got a lot of the talent right there. So I think for the most part, it's going to be figuring out where they have the best talent and where they can fit those people. Obviously, I think the Attorney General job is incredibly important. We've always seen in history that job needs to be one where the president really can confide in that individual, because so many major decisions come out of the Department of Justice. You saw that relationship between John F. Kennedy and his brother. And I just think that is an incredibly important job to consider, especially conservatives will be looking very carefully who Donald Trump picks for Attorney General.
Mercy, we have some real CPAC all-stars, Sean, that I think would be great picks. Bob Beaupre, former congressman from Colorado who's on our board, would be a great Interior Secretary or EPA Minister. It's going to be a tough person that takes on those challenges. I think John Bolton, he's got to be put in this cabinet. We need a seasoned veteran who's a hard-charging, fearless advocate. KT McFarland is another person I think the administration should look closely at. We've got some real all-stars out there. It's time to get our very best talent, our very best conservatives, and let them go in there and knock the liberals' heads in.
All right, guys, good to see you both. And for those that don't know, these guys are married. And they took a lot of heat for supporting Donald Trump. By the way, are you now being invited back to the parties or no?
My voicemail is full. It's so strange. I don't know how that happened.
And Sean, I told Kellyanne Conway I'm happy to raise her 4 kids and so she can go work at the White House. So I would have 9 kids in total.
I was going to say five girls is enough, isn't it? That's a lot of girls.
I'll sacrifice so Kellyanne can get over to the White House. We need her there.
I agree. I think she'd be great there. All right, guys, good to see you. And up next tonight, right here on Hannity.
I want somebody in there who can shake it up, who can change it up, who are not after the money and, after people telling them what to say. And I like a man who puts his money where his mouth is.
Duck Dynasty's Willie Robertson was a Trump supporter from the day one, the get-go. He joins us next in studio to talk about the election results and much more. Straight ahead.
I want somebody in there who can shake it up, who can change it up, who are not after the money and, after people telling them what to say. And I like a man who puts his money where his mouth is and pays for his own thing, and he's not in debt to anybody and says, hey, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I think he's the man for the job. He's run a business, and I think, so many of these people come in, they've never run a business. They don't know what they're doing when they get there.
All right, that was Duck Dynasty's Willie Robertson. That was back in January as he was debating his dad, who was supporting Ted Cruz. He was supporting Trump from the beginning. Here to talk about the election results, and his brand new book, by the way, is out. The American Fisherman, How Our Nation's Anglers Founded, fed, financed, and forever shaped the USA. Willie Robertson, how are you? You didn't sign my book.
What's going on?
You guys got like a book a week, but they're all good. I like this book.
We're just trying to keep
I want to
up,
live your life. I
don't get. Don't.
Why not?
Look at your hair. That's not my life. I spend no time with my hair. Hours.
Do you comb that thing every day?
I have a beard. Yeah.
At Christmas time, do you put more white in than you have normally?
It's getting a little whiter.
It's getting a little whiter since I've seen you last.
When Duck Dynasty's gone and over and we move on, I'm going to be one of these Santa mall guys and just take pictures with kids. I could do that.
You could do that?
Actually, on the new season, Duck Dynasty starts tonight. One of the episodes, we actually throw a little color in it, but it never looks good.
When you put color, what kind of color?
My kids did it. It was
purple.
No, it was black.
Black. It wasn't
Too
pink.
Much. It just looks. It looks.
Did it look
dumb.
real?
It looks dumb.
Now, your dad was supporting Ted. You were supporting Trump from the get-go.
Right.
You ended up being right. Was your dad happy with the results?
Yes, Dad is very happy with the results.
Right.
Yeah, once it got down to basically 2 people, it was an easy choice for us, and so Phil got on board. You know, at the dinner table, I'd kind of give him the
I call this though the forgotten man election. Like the people that I would envision, your target audience, right? You know, people that love God, faith, family, country. That's Duck Dynasty. That's the success. Nobody understood the success of your show. I understood it because you connect with real people. Right. But those real people are out of work, on food stamps, too many of them, in poverty, too many of them. The American dream, the rungs to the ladder have been taken away from them. And Trump is saying we need to get those jobs back here. Right. I say that that's Duck Dynasty's audience, that Democrats and government have not been connecting with and serving.
Well, if you see the map, the end map, all that red, that's why Duck Dynasty works. That's who watches our show. I mean, your biggest
audience isn't in New York and San Francisco and LA?
Probably not. Although I've been in New York City. There's a lot of Duck Dynasty people here. Well, I took pictures there.
There's not many people in camo with long beards like you. And what happened to your brother Jace when he came to New York?
Oh, well, allegedly he got kicked out of Trump's hotel.
He got kicked out, right?
Probably wouldn't now.
They thought he was a homeless guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, we need to go down there now. See
Did Trump ever call him?
I may get yelled at. Yeah, they sent a letter and gave us something. So
they gave you something. What, they give you a tie that you're never going to wear, a Trump tie?
I helped him out, so helped him out in the election, and so we're all good now.
How important is it, like, for example, you know, one of the things that Jerry Falwell Jr. said, he's the president of Liberty University, a mutual friend of ours. He said early on, he said, we're not electing a pastor-in-chief, we're electing a commander-in-chief. There's a difference. Like, you're a pastor. Your dad's a pastor.
I'm not a pastor.
You baptize people every day.
That doesn't make me I'm not a paid pastor.
Yeah, but you're...
Look at me. I'm not the pastor.
All right, look at your father. Same thing. But your father...
He's not a pastor either.
He said to me he wanted to take me in the back of your house where alligators live and dunk me in the swamp.
Right.
And,
well, that doesn't make you a
baptize
pastor.
me.
The point is, yes, we've all fallen short of the glory of God. And I think we saw that. And so we need a president who's... knows about business, knows about jobs, knows about big numbers, economy. That's what I'm hoping we're going to get, and I think he can work with different people. Yeah. You're not successful in New York unless you can, so as successful as he was, that's what we're banking on. And I got to take him fishing and take you fishing. When's the last time you went fishing? Exactly.
No, last Christmas.
It's time.
No, I went last Christmas.
You're going to read that book.
I caught 30 grouper.
And well, there you go.
There you go. It's good eating
fish. It took you that long to go back?
I work for a living. I'm on the air for... You do one season, then you go on 6 months hiatus, come back, and then A&E will run it in loops, 24-hour shows. Duck Dynasty, update. Never stops.
When are we going to play golf? We got a big bet.
Yeah,
you say you're getting better. I want to see.
Okay, who won the basketball bet?
I won the basketball bet. It was your show. I wasn't going to embarrass you like that.
Who lost the basketball bet?
I'll let you win.
You did not let me win.
I'll let you win. We'll settle up.
Jesus said not to lie, you know.
I'm not lying.
All right, thank you for being with us. And when we come back, we need your help. A very important question of the day. Straight ahead. All right, time for our question of the day. So why do you think the media's coverage of Trump in 2016 was so different than Obama in 2008? Just go to Facebook.com/Sean Hannity, @Sean Hannity on Twitter. Let us know what you think. Before we go, by the way, we want to give a quick shout out. Fox and Friends co-host Ainsley Earhart. You see that? Her brand new children's book, Take Heart, My Child, is now #1 on Amazon, meaning the #1 best-selling book in the country. And she wanted us to convey to all of you her many thanks. It's a great book, by the way, if you have a kid, grandkid, great for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, makes a terrific gift. And the book's illustrations better than any I've seen. I think you'll like it, and I know your kids will like it, and it has great life lessons in there. But that's all the time we have left. We're going to see you back here tomorrow night. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you then.